Hi, and welcome to this webinar for the Structural Concrete 2021 competition. I hope you're all getting on okay with it. I hope you're enjoying the brief and you're enjoying doing the thinking up designs for it. So this session is really just to go through some of the top tips for completing the competition, for doing your entry. And what you need to be thinking about when you're doing your designs. Please do ask any questions while we go through. There's a chat box that you can ask questions in. So if you see down in your dashboard from GoToWebinar, there's a chat box. So please do use that if you've got a question. If you think about the question and haven't actually asked it during this session, then please email me and I'll try and get back to you with it. So I'm Jenny Burridge. I'm Head of Structural Engineering at the Concrete Centre, and I'm one of the judges for the competition, and I also helped write the brief for the competition. So I'm going to start with my top tips, and the first top tip is follow the brief. You will be marked down significantly if you don't follow the brief. The idea behind the competition brief is that it sort of follows some of what the Institution of Structural Engineers Chartered Membership Exam does, which is to give you a problem, ask you for two options, and then ask you to design more fully the option that you choose. And the big thing is to follow the brief. So in the institution's charter membership exam, if you haven't followed the brief, then you tend to get failed just because you haven't followed the brief. You won't be failing on this one because obviously we're not it's not a pass or fail thing for the competition. It's who's got the best, who we think has got the best solution to the question, which is the brief. But because if you don't follow the brief, you will have not done what your client is asking you to do, then you will be, it will be sort of held against you. So do follow the brief. If there's anything in the brief that you don't understand, then do ask the questions. Do shout and ask the questions, and we'll give you we'll answer those questions as quickly as we possibly can. So the first thing is hopefully you've all got this. You're all aware of the brief and where it is. It's from download it from www.concretecentre.com/competition. Do look at it. We've got this. So this year we've got a library with an office over. So it's a civic building. We've got a question that I will answer as one of the questions that I'm due to answer at the end of the session anyway. So I'll keep that one in mind. So it's a sort of rectangular building, but with a curved section of the library. The library is the full footprint of the building. The office is an L shape over. Entrances for the offices is into the sort of a ground floor, and then a lower ground floor is the library. I spotted today that we managed to get the drawing of for this drawing in the brief wrong, because our AA is wrong. So I have in fact corrected that on this diagram here. So the section AA it should have looked like that, and then you've got this is the section AA. This is in the brief, and the section is correct. It's just that the section marks were incorrect. So the lower ground floor is a library, and then we've got 4 levels of offices above. We don't have anything. We haven't said anything about how the column grid. So choose a reasonable column grid. Think about offices, think about libraries, think about where you've been in offices and where you've been in libraries. You put the columns in where it's structurally a good idea, but we haven't put a limit on either on the span between columns, or whether you can have columns in the elevations or anything like that. So put them where you want to put them, where you think is a good idea structurally, and also both structurally and from the point of view of making the offices, the space work. So that's section A, and you'll see that there's a retaining wall, and the brief does talk about the retaining wall. The retaining wall is will need to take some load. So in the brief, we've actually given you the loadings that we want you to take. So be aware of that. Also be aware that these loads are significantly larger than any wind load. So in terms of horizontal loading, you need to think about the wind load, but this load is significantly larger than any wind load that you're going to get anywhere else. So this will form the biggest proportion of horizontal load on the building, and you need to take account of it. Work out what you're going to do with it. What do you where the load is going to go. So it's worth putting in where you're going to take that load to, how you're going to resist that load, as well as obviously there's vertical loads that you will need to work out how to resist. So it's one of the things you could do is to show by little diagrams where you're taking the load. You don't have to, but it's just one of the things you could do. There's another top tip is provide hand calculations. Now, one of the questions we have had in is, can you do an Excel, use an Excel sheet, because you can fit more onto an Excel sheet than you can using hand calculations. Yes, you can. You need to show that that it would be a good idea, but it's a good idea to show that you have done. Not quite done it by hand, but we need to see that you know how to do those calculations. So it doesn't mean say that you can't do it by on an Excel sheet, but we don't want to see the numbers just plucked out of the air. We want to see where they come from. So yes, you can use Excel sheet, or you can use hand calculations. So the provide hand calculations is the sort of shorthand for saying you need it to be you need to show your workings, as it were. Think about the drawings. Spend time on the drawings. It's worth doing it. They are probably the things that are going to be looked at first by the judges. That's not necessarily your tutor who's going to be looking at it to start off with, but for the national competition, it's the drawings that the judges will tend to look at first, and it's worth getting. So it's worth making them look pretty. So I've got a diagram, a drawing. This isn't from this year. It isn't from last year either. It's from the year before, but it shows the sort of thing that looks good. So this is the drawing that was produced by the people who won the competition when it was this project, which is an elliptical building. So you can see that you don't have to do it in CAD, by the way. You can produce hand drawings, and in fact people who produce hand drawings don't get penalized at all for doing hand drawings. We've had winners who've done hand drawings. So but just to show that you can see that it gives the sizing, it gives the grids, it's got some nice grids shown on it, It shows what size of columns, what size of beams that they need. It hasn't actually got it on the drawing, but it's got it in the notes of what size of beam. Oh no, it has got it in the drawing, but you can see that it's got the information that you need to produce, so that I can understand immediately from this where the columns are, where the beams are, what size they are, how the stability works. Basically it's a good drawing. So think about your drawings. Another one is that we don't mind you being inventive. So long as you keep within the brief, so don't ignore the brief to be inventive, but if you want to do something that's a bit unusual, that's solving a problem that is basically solving the problem in an interesting way, then that'd be great. Please do think about being inventive. If you're not inventive, that's also okay, but you will get additional marks. We don't give marks, but you will get additional plus points in the judge's consideration by coming up with something exciting and different. But make sure that you're within the brief. For the sustainability part, and that you need to do a sustainability report, do think about the whole life aspects, but also think about the whole life aspects and the initial aspect. So when you're thinking about sustainability, there's the whole of the life cycle analysis way of looking at it, which is where you have section A is where stage A is where you're constructing the building. So you need to think about the sustainability of that. Section or stage B is where you've got maintenance and running the building, so you need to think about that as well. And then stage C is deconstruction. So you need to think about all of those, plus post end of life. So you could think about something like the carbonation that happens in the concrete, for example. That will give you, so you need to think about all sections, the whole life aspects for the sustainability part. So it's not just the structure, it's not just the concrete, but think about what concrete brings to the aspects of sustainability for long life, for fire resistance, for flood resistance, for as well as reducing the embodied carbon for your structure. So it's the whole thing. And then the final top tip is, please do ask me questions. If you're not sure, then please ask. That's my email address, jburridge@concretecentre.com. I will try and get back to you quickly. If I'm on holiday or doing something else, I'll come back to you when I can. But hopefully, I'll be able to give you a steer quite quickly. But do email, do ask the questions. I'd hate for you to be sitting there wondering what on earth to do. So those are the top tips. Follow the brief, provide hand calculations, spend time on the drawings, be inventive but within the brief. Think for the sustainability part, think about the whole life aspects from start to finish. And then if you've got any questions, email me. These are the dates for this year. We've got the entries opened on 20th of August last year. Today we've got the webinar Q&A. The entries close on the 11th of June. So that's when we'd like to have your tutors to have sent us the winning entry from your university. You need to have completed the deadline, completed the design entry. If you win your local competition, you need to have completed the design and got it to us by the 9th of July, and then we announce the competition winners. It says TBC September. The reason why it's to be confirmed is because we're hoping to have a real live event where we will be doing we will be doing our autumn seminar on the 28th of September in London at the Institution of Structural Engineers, where we haven't arranged the topic yet, but it will be a seminar for practicing engineers. Basically, it is our autumn seminar, but at the beginning of that seminar, we announce the winners, and we'll give you. And if you've won, you get your prizes on that day. We will tell you beforehand whether you've won, so that you can know whether to come to London or not. If, however, so that's 28th of September. If, however, it looks like that's not going to happen in real life, then we will organise it'll probably be the beginning of September or the end of August. We will organise a virtual prize giving, and that will be so that everybody can come along who's been involved. So the reason why we're not too sure at the moment is because it's one of those, I don't know, is with the pandemic, everything is always is up to be it could be changed depending on what happens. Let's hope that we can all meet up in September. So those are the dates. Just as a reminder, don't put your name or university name on the design entry. This is the one that you're going to give if you win your your university competition. When you're giving in the design entry to the main competition, to the national competition, don't put your name or university name on. We want it to be anonymous. So you will receive a unique reference number, and you put that on your entry so that we know that when we look at the list, we'll be able to tell who you are, but we don't look at who you are until we've done the judging, and it's always quite fun we do the judging, we find out that it's number whatever, and then we look up who it is, and we see which university you've come from, but we don't know until then. So make sure that you don't give us a clue by putting your name or university name on the design entry. In the brief, it says that the competition should be 30 pages. That is because we did it when we were thinking about it. We were thinking that you might be able to send us a paper copy. We don't want you to send us a paper copy. So that 30 pages, which is two-sided 30 pages, is 60 pages of the PDF. So 60 pages of the PDF. Please don't go more than that. You will be marked, as it were. You'll be downgraded if you go over those 60 pages. But the A3 drawings are in addition to the 60 pages. And please send your entry in as a PDF, because we're not at the office yet, so we can't. We're not. There's nobody there to pick up the paper entry. So please send them to us as a PDF. So let's go on to the resources. I thank you. I've just got another question which I will answer when I get to the questions bit. Resources. You should have access to all our documents, all our technical guidance. These are normally practicing engineers pay for them, but we provide them soft copies to universities and students free of charge. So this should be available. It's on IHS, which is Construction Information Service, which you probably have through your university library, is where you'll find them. So the ones that we think you would find particularly useful are how to design concrete structures using your code 2. This is our how-to compendium, which has got some useful sort of things like flow diagrams of how to do the design simply. And then the other one that we would recommend you look at is Economic Concrete Frame Elements, Eurocode 2. This gives you an idea for sizing, so that instead of you don't know how big you should make it, have a look at the Economic Concrete Frame Elements book. It gives various different slabs types. It gives you column sizes for different loadings. Worth a look, and it's a really useful book actually. The next one, if you there's lots of different ways you could do this project. We do have some technical guides on various different types of ways of doing concrete brick buildings. This is one of it. I'm not suggesting you do it as a hybrid, which is precast and in situ together, but you could. And if you did, there's a book. We've got a book about it. The Concrete Frame Buildings book is quite a useful one. This is actually one of our free brochures, so anybody can have this as free. It gives the various different ways of doing concrete frame buildings and talks about some of the benefits and when you would use each of them. So it does do hybrid, it does do in situ, it does precast, gives an idea about sort of lead-in times and speed of construction. It's got other graphs in as well. And that's a really useful book as well. Then if you're doing precast, then we have a book on offsite concrete construction. Again, this is it's one of our what we call our blue books. The grey books are the technical guides, and they are thicker, and we charge for them. The blue books are free to everybody, and they still have some technical information, but it's more of a why to use them. So it does. This one is doing precast floors, and then you might think about doing a post-tension floor, and we've got a blue brochure about about that as well, post-tensioning, should you wish to try that. Then we've got some software. So one that I would recommend you try if you haven't tried already. This is free. It's Concept. We issued this last year as version 4. Up till then, it basically gives you 13 different options for concrete floors, from given the grid and the loading, and it's a very simple spreadsheet to work. And then it gives you it gives you for program cost, and now in version 4 for carbon, for the embodied carbon, it will pick up. It shows you. It ranks for cost carbon and program. You can look at it and see which is the best option for the grid, the building and the grid that you've chosen with the loading that you've got, and it's a very simple spreadsheet to use. And that's available from concretecentre.com/concept. And with Concept, we have, because we've just reissued it with the carbon, there's a couple of online videos, webinars saying how to use it. So have a look. And then we've also got the RC spreadsheets, which are more, so Concept will give you an idea, but it won't give you a full design. The RC spreadsheets do give you a full design, and they so there's a range of RC spreadsheets, all giving you the different for different elements. So this one is the that you see here is TCC 21, which is the subframe analysis. So you can put in a subframe, and it gives you the analysis, and will also give you the design. The spreadsheets are free. We provide the spreadsheets for free to universities. So if your university doesn't have copies, then ask your tutor to get in contact with us, and we can provide them with the right link. So questions. We've got we have got some questions coming, which is great. Thank you very much. So I've just the ones that I'll do the ones that I've had before, which is what's the marking system for the competition? There isn't a marking system, but what we're looking to do as judges is to see who has provided the best solution to the brief, basically. So make sure that your and drawings and calculations are important parts of that. So the people who are judging it are engineers. So you need to be thinking about impressing the structural engineers. This is this was the first question that came in for this webinar, and basically it's the building going to be demolished after 30 years if the maintenance contract is only for 30 years. There's no the reason behind the 30 years is because it hasn't been common recently, but it was quite a thing that was happening about 5-10 years ago, where you'd have PFI projects, where the private finance initiative projects, and still people are doing some of these, where the consortium who builds the building then effectively rents out the building to in this case, the council. So, and at the end of that stage, at the end of that 30 years, the building is handed over to the council for them to run and maintain. But the main reason for it is, in terms of putting in the brief, is because what you're trying to do is to look at not just day one, but for 30 you're helping the contractor for 30 years. So you want something that's low maintenance, that is energy efficient. So you're trying to think of making sure that it is a durable, low maintenance building that doesn't and low energy building. So that's why it's in there. So after 30 years, it won't be demolished. It will be handed over to the council, who will then carry on using it. We would not want a concrete building to be demolished after 30 years. So hopefully that answers that question. Yes. So the lifespan of the concrete frame building would be, in terms of what you're looking at in your specification of concrete, you will be needing to look at BS 8500, which is a specification of concrete, and in tables A4 and A5, A4 is for 50 years, A5 is for 100 years. You will be looking at A4 because you're looking for 50 years. The concrete will last for longer than 50 years, by the way. So that's that one. To what extent should design option 2 be explained or detailed is another question we've had. And that is, you should so we've asked you for 2 distinct and viable solutions, which is actually a direct quote from the Institution of Structural Engineers Chartered Membership Exam. And the idea is so you've got to think of how to do the two different ways of getting the loads to the ground. And so you don't need to do the calculations for it, but you need to show within your description, you need to show that the sizes that you've used are reasonable. So you don't need to do a full design, but you just need to do a conceptual design, which is that that the sizing is reasonable, and you've looked to make sure you know that the stability is correct. So you've got a stable system, that you've taken those horizontal loads, you've taken those vertical loads, you've got them all down to the ground in a reasonable way. The foundations are reasonable. So that's the extent. And then so that was those are the 3 questions that I had previously. So I've now got some more coming in, and I'll just look through these now. So, can the team consider the additional floor for lift machine room over the lift area? Do retaining wall is on the one place below the full size. Okay, right. So there's about 3 or 4 questions in this one. So there will need to be the lift goes up to the roof where there's going to be plant. There will need to be there will need to be a lift machine room over the oh no, sorry, there will need to be the lift goes up to the roof. There will need to be a little section that goes up above the roof, so the lift to hold the lift, and then there will need to be um, a lid over the top of that lift shaft. You don't need to do anything further than that. Next question in this one long question is: is the retaining wall required on the north side only? Means that one face of the building out of 4 sides of the 4 rectangular plans. You should assume that the retaining wall only happens on one side of the building, which is the north side of the building. I think it's the north side of the building. You don't have to worry about because you've got a slope. There's a slope between one side and the other. I have assumed that what you've got is this building will be one of several on a road, and they will all have this, so it will be next door to another building which will equally have an entrance in that's ground floor and the entrance in at the lower ground floor at the back, and you don't need to worry about taking a retaining wall round the sides of the building. So it's just one wall that you need to worry about with the retaining wall. And then the next question in this one is: can we type in Word rather than to show handwritten calculations? Yes, you can. Just make sure that you show, even if you're typing it in, make sure that you have shown us that you know what you're doing. So it doesn't have to be written. It can be in Word, but you need to put down what you would have put down in your hand calculation in your typed up calculation. No, there's a question. Is it correct to say that there are to be no internal columns at both office and library levels? No, you can put columns in where you like. So although the section AA basically doesn't show any columns, it's not saying that there aren't any columns. It's just that we haven't put any in because you can decide where they go. So you can have columns along the facades, and you can also have columns in the center of you can have internal columns. So no, we're not expecting you to try and go 30 meters. That's fine. We're not expecting you to do that. Next question is: do we need full layouts for each floor, for each scheme? No, you don't. You can choose the number of layouts that you need to show the scheme. So level 1, so level 1 and level 2 are the same. You don't need to show both of them. So the lower ground floor level is going to be different. The ground floor level is going to be different because you're going to be having the terrace over the library, and then the L shape of the library. I'm sorry, the offices can be can be shown. Just one of those needs to be shown. Can the team use hypothetical consultant firm name and use it in the drawings or calculation sheets? Yes, certainly you can do that, no problem at all. Are there any full design guides for precast? We don't have them. There are some there's a useful book by Kim Elliott, if you can find that in your library, on precast design. And we've got the hybrid guide that you've got is quite useful, and that offsite construction is also, it's got quite a lot of stuff in there. But no, there isn't a full design guide for precast. Much of precast or hybrid design is the same as in situ design. It's from Eurocode 2, so the Eurocode 2 stuff works. Next question. In the calculation part, when we are noting references related to any steps, can we use the tables and points from Appendix C, design aids given in the yes, you can certainly reference the design aids, and that's fine. So yes, I see that you've obviously found the worked examples to Eurocode 2, which is a book that I forgot to put down in the resources, which is useful. We have got a worked examples to Eurocode 2 book that again you'll be able to find on Construction Information Service if you don't have a soft copy of that otherwise. But yes, you can use those design aids and reference them, no problem. Can we use the RC spreadsheet of Concrete Centre directly in the project? Yes, you can, and you can put those, while we're expecting you to do some hand calculations, we're not expecting you to do all hand calculations. So we things like subframe analysis, we're not expecting you to do those as a hand calculation. We are expecting you to do m over BD squared FCK as a K equals m over BD squared FCK as a design, or do and design the reinforcement from that sort of thing. We're expecting subframe analysis and analysis generally. Certainly use the spreadsheets or use another piece of software. Just make sure that you don't fill up all your 60 pages with computer printout, and make sure that you say what you're doing. So it's the big thing is for you to say what you're doing. Does the circulation space need to be bigger in the library as it has a larger floor area? Yes, it does. So your I think it's the 15%. You will need to have more loos, for example, in your library than you do in your offices. How do we need to carry out the fine element analysis of the entire building to do full designs? No, you do not. In fact, we're not expecting you to. So the fine element analysis is not required. If you want to do a fine element analysis, then okay, but we're not expecting you to. And in fact, I see no reason why you would need to do a full fine element analysis on the brief that you've been given. It's not necessary. It's a fairly straightforward design. How much emphasis should we be put on architectural things? The emphasis should be put on the structural engineering. It is a structural engineering competition, but we would like you to think about a little bit about what it looks like, a little bit about what the finishes are. So not much emphasis, but a little bit. So think in terms of a structural engineer who's trying to produce something that looks reasonable and is working with an architect. Next question is, do we need to include costing of the two design options within the submission report? No, you don't. need to do costings, but it would be worth your while thinking about how much it does cost and what the buildability aspects are and how long it will take, and put that in. So you don't need to do a full costing, but it's worth talking about the cost. There's another question of can the hypothetical consultant firm name and used on drawings or calculation sheets? Yes, with putting assumption that group has formed the design firm XYZ consultant like that. We don't mind you dreaming up a consultant firm that you put all your everything, all your designs in. Put it on the calculation sheets, put it on the drawings. We don't mind you doing that. We just need to make sure that you do not put your university name in. So be as inventive as you like in terms of the pretending that you're a consultant firm. It's absolutely fine. Right, I think that's the end of the questions. So hopefully that's been useful for you. Remember, do email me if you've got any further questions, jburridge@concretecentre.com. And there's one more. Okay, repeat what I said about the assumed adjacent structures. You don't have to think about the adjacent structures particularly. The only thing is that this is my assumption, and what your assumption should be is that you only have a retaining wall along the side that has been noted on section AA. So you don't have to worry about any adjacent structures next door. You just need to think that you've got a retaining wall along along the north. I think it's the north face of the building, and all the other faces, the south, east, and west faces. The external ground is at the lower ground level, so you don't need to worry about adjacent structures. It's just but you do need to think about that retaining wall. Okay, I think that's all of the questions. Hopefully we've answered. It's been useful for you, and I'll look forward to getting any more questions that you have. And good luck. I hope it all goes well for you. Thank you very much. Bye bye.